Welcome to One Up Fantasy, helping you one up the fantasy football competition. For the latest in Chicago sports news, visit ChiCitySports.com. And now, here are the hosts of One Up Fantasy, Stephen Johnson and Chris Jackle. Kaboom!
Greetings and salutations, one and all. Welcome into a new episode of One Up Fantasy here on Chi-City Sports and the Tape Never Lies Network. I'm Stephen Johnson. He is Chris Jackle. If I can tilt my head the correct way, we'd get off to a much better start. But hey, it's week 14. It is the final week for many a fantasy football league out there. If you have 6 teams or if you just kind of stayed on the same schedule as last year and you said, screw it, we don't need to play week 17 and 18. We're just going to play our normal 15-16 playoff as we always do. TTNL League may be set up like that on accident. I'll just throw that out there.
Yeah, way to go, Jerk. Way to go.
I'm sorry. It was a terrible mistake. I blame Sleeper. I did not make that decision. It is my fault. I probably should have paid attention.
You're okay. You're okay, Mr. Johnson. Hey, you're okay.
How are we doing this evening?
Good evening, Mr. Johnson. It is week 14. I can't fucking believe we can talk about the playoffs. It seems like we just were talking about week 4 and 5, breaking down all those awesome injuries that started piling up. But yeah, we're here. We are excited to talk about this because there is a lot to talk about now. That the longer schedule doesn't mean anything really for fantasy, as you just alluded to with respects to the scheduling. It's playoff time. If you have a shot, congratulations. You were able to survive and maneuver and spend your money wisely and make those plays, just like you were talking about, I think, on Twitter today, with your one team there. You survived like 8 injuries, and you're living to talk about it. That's something to be said. That's an accomplishment,
I tell you what, that was that was one of the more bizarre seasons I think I've ever had. I had the Scott Fish Bowl. Somehow got into the playoffs at 8-5. I drafted Christian McCaffrey, J.K. Dobbins, Calvin Ridley, Irv Smith. Who else? Anthony Ferkser, who is apparently only a special teamer, according to Mike Vrabel, along with some other very piss poor draft picks. But hey, it's the playoffs, and that's all that matters. So I should have gone for a lottery ticket or two while the iron was hot with that luck. But even if it's only 1 week in the playoffs, you try and just enjoy the view while you're there, I think.
Yeah, but you try to make the tournament. I mean, that's what we're here for. Yep. You make those moves, you're making those plays, because at the end of the day, you need to be lucky to make it. You need to be lucky to win the championship. You can't game the system really in fantasy football, as we've seen with all the injuries and all the nonsense that's gone on this year, COVID and what have you. It's just really made it a lot of fucking fun, a lot of heartache, a lot of frustrations. It's like every time you go to look at your roster, you're losing somebody or you're making a play. You have to, it's all hands on deck at this point, but it's playoff time. I'm excited. You're excited. I know we have some teams that are making the playoffs. We're in the money chase here. So Let's get into a little bit of this because there's, I think scheduling is extremely important. I wasn't sure if you wanted to start there, but matchups and everything all come into play now. It's not just throwing your best lineup. It's your best matchups at this point and really doing that homework now. And Mr. Johnson, you're the numbers guy. I'd love to see your breakdown here and get it started.
Well, I think off the top here, like you mentioned, there's some people that have already clinched spots. There's a lot of leagues out there where there's a lot up for grabs. Yeah. We always love we we've got 6 guys that are within a game, and if they score this many points and this guy scores that many points and this guy gets in, and there's all the scenarios. The scenarios are always the fun part that week before the playoffs start up. But the fun part about this year, the latest bye in NFL history, a week 14 bye, and it is a painful one. Week 13 was painful, as is week 14. The 4 teams on the bye. We have the Indianapolis Colts. Goodbye, Michael Pittman. Goodbye, Jonathan Taylor. Oh, that's a rough one for a lot of teams out there if you're fighting for a playoff spot. And then on top of that, you have the Miami Dolphins. And some people may be relying on Myles Gaskin, plenty relying on Jalen Waddle with the breakout rookie season. Yep.
Last couple of games, yeah. So,
absolutely. Gesicki, maybe, if you need some real tight end help there. New England Patriots, you're relying on that backfield with Stevenson and Harris. They're out this week. And then the Philadelphia Eagles, no Jalen Hurts, no Sanders, no Smith, no Goddard.
No Minshew.
Again.
Yeah.
It's a mess. It is an absolute mess once again, especially at the running back position. Really, all 4 teams with viable starters at running back from a fantasy perspective. And I feel like we've talked about the running back position enough this year where it's just like, how much more could go wrong with the running back position over the course of this regular season? And I keep asking that, and it continues to get worse. So I'm afraid where this could potentially go. And so, we're talking about schedules here. And one of the things that we want to discuss is just the strength of schedule coming up for a lot of these teams as things break down here. I'm going to throw up a really, really ugly chart overhead, but this is going to break down weeks 15, 16, and 17, which each team has alphabetically, that team column, who they have coming up for the playoff fantasy football stretch. And I tell you what, there is really a mixed bag of who has the best schedules. I'll give you a second to kind of look this up and down here, because there's a lot to take in with this.
Yeah, no, you're
right. There definitely is. But one that sticks out to me that really hasn't gotten a lot of credit, but is slowly gaining said credit, includes an offense with a tight end that just had his first multiple touchdown game of his career. Do you know who that is?
Jesus, I don't.
George Kittle had his first multiple touchdown game of his career on Sunday.
Wow.
Shit you not. It was his first.
That really surprising. Okay.
and so just looking at this schedule here, 15, 16, and 17, you've got Atlanta, Tennessee, and Houston. Out of all the teams, like, that's the one that my eye definitely gravitates here towards, to say the least here. Just in terms of everything that goes into this offense. Brandon Ayuk, not necessarily the greatest game with Debo Samuel out this past week. But again, everything from every position, this should be smash spots for that San Francisco offense, especially the way that defense is playing. Even though they did lose to Seattle, Fred Warner should hopefully be back here this coming week, which will definitely help from that end. But going across the gamut, Ayuk, Samuel, Kittle, Elijah Mitchell, don't know if he's going to play this week. That's another situation. Who's going to be that guy that's going to step up? Is it
Trey
Jeff
Sermon?
Wilson? Is it Trey Sermon? Trey Sermon actually, is he injured now? I think he might be injured. I think he's just
got hurt feelings. I think. I don't know. He just, at this point. No, but you bring up a really good point.
He's on IR. He's on IR, so he's done
so.
So again, there's this opportunity here for the running back position down the stretch for San Francisco. And you look at it and you're like, okay, this could work well with what they have brewing. Again, those 3 games, that's a pretty well-positioned matchup for just about any fantasy player, especially in an offense like San Francisco's, where you have Kyle Shanahan that loves to run the ball.
That's and you speak of the matchup. Cincinnati gives up 26 points a game, per run, to running backs. Atlanta 27 points a game per running backs. Tennessee, it's another over 20. So you're 100% right. I mean, these guys are all going to eat. You speak of the running. I mean, the wide receivers, right? I forget the one gentleman there. What's his name? He's like the third on their depth chart. And
Jermichael Hasty.
Yes. Or not. What about Trent Sherfield? On the wide receiver and the wide receiver.
Oh, yes. Trent Sherfield. Yes.
Yeah. So,
right.
I mean,
right.
With Deebo Samuel out, you have Ayuk, you have Sherfield and Jennings, and no wonder why Kittle had his 2 touchdowns when you were missing Samuel. But, to that point, though, Cincinnati, Atlanta, and Tennessee, they all give up almost 40 points a game to wide receivers and, fantasy points a game. So, to just piggyback your point, each one of those skill positions, fantasy-wise, are going to eat. Is there another team that is similar, like in parallel, in your opinion, outside of San Francisco? Maybe like they're clearly the top dog here, I think, based on the breakdown of points and the teams they're playing. Is there another team that, you think could benefit from that schedule that would help our fantasy players here?
Let's pull the schedule back up. If you're watching this on your phones, deepest apologies. Hopefully you're on a bigger screen than that here, because it's a little tiny. Yeah. Probably could have done it
like Dallas. What about Dallas? They play the Washington football team. They play the Giants, and then they finish. Week 17 they play Arizona, but they go Washington football team, the Giants, and then the Washington football team again.
With the way that honestly, yeah. And it's weird saying, because like the Washington football team has in a weird way been rejuvenated since Chase Young went down, which makes absolutely zero sense. But at the same time, looking at what Dallas has been able to do, and they're starting to get healthy again. They're getting Amari Cooper back. They're getting CeeDee Lamb back healthy. You have Michael Gallup, who has just exploded since he came back from the IR. And then you have that running game where Tony Pollard has definitely picked up the slack. Ezekiel Elliott has not looked like himself. That's my biggest question about Dallas heading into this final stretch. Because, watching Thursday night against the Saints, Zeke was limping.
Thursday night games, I feel like they're just an anomaly. Like, you can't give them. I hate Thursday night football. It pisses me off just because it's such a fantasy crapshoot. And honestly, these guys are nowhere near ready to play. I just think physically, where the NFL that's the one thing I paid the price. I started freaking Ingram last week, and I'm still sour about it because I should have started Sonny Michel, but whatever.
It's always the fun.
I didn't know if Henderson was going to play, so I didn't know what to do, and clearly it bit me.
That was a lame duck situation. At least you didn't play him, I guess, right?
Yeah.
So, it could have been worse.
Yeah, thanks.
Could have been worse. Did it help at all? Probably not.
But I'm going to ask you a question. So What about like a Jacksonville Jaguar player? I'm looking at the teams like James Robinson. If he's healthy, they play Tennessee, Houston, and the Jets, week 14, 15, 16. It's tough to trust him all year, but he's a guy you kind of have to think about. And you could put some faith there looking at the matchups. If you've been on the fence for the last 4 or 5 weeks, I know he's been banged up and there's been some concerns, but I don't have him personally on any of my teams, but there are people out there that do, I just played against them. So
it's, he was another one of those questionable plays this past week. And especially, right out of the gate against the Rams, he fumbles. And then it's a pretty heavy dose of Carlos Hyde. And it's like, oh, God, are they putting him in the doghouse? Is he done because he's dealing with his ankle? It was just a lot of questions that kept coming for James Robinson. But again, you mentioned that schedule and just the opportunity. The Jets being among the worst in the league against the run.
Yeah.
If he is playing, he's a fringe must start in that situation. He should be a must start 100%. but you just can't trust Urban Meyer. And that's the biggest issue with this, is you just don't know what he's going to do when it's pretty evident, even despite Urban Meyer saying that Carlos Hyde fits his system better. This isn't Ohio State anymore.
No, it's not.
James Robinson is the better running back.
Yeah.
He just flat out is. And it makes me wonder what exactly James Robinson's role is going to be next year when Travis Etienne gets healthy again after his freak foot injury in the preseason. But I can't see him being any less, even with in those matchups, less than a very, very, very solid, bottom RB1 start in any shape or form. And it's tough because I feel exactly what you're thinking with that, because it is so damn hard to trust him.
Yeah, those are tough nights. Those are sleepless nights. If you're going into your championship game, and you're banking on James Robinson, granted, he's one of the last remaining running backs that are still healthy to this. He's limping in, but at the same point, you're banking on James Robinson here to win some money. That's tough. But at the same time, the matchup is perfect. Championship game, you're going against the worst run defense, giving up 36 points a game to running back. I mean, come on, that's you have to play him. You're almost, you have to actually probably put some FanDuel money on that for some 2 touchdown scores or something. Make a little bread too on top of that. I look over here. There aren't many other teams that jump out at you, but there are a couple players, like Dak Prescott. We talk about the Cowboys in those matchups.
Yep.
Is there anybody that jumps off the table? Pittsburgh, like Deontay Johnson. They got Minnesota, Tennessee, and Kansas City. All 3 teams that suck against the pass. So it's that's a beautiful thing, even for Chase Claypool. But then again, you got Ben Roethlisberger and his, bum elbow or, his whatever, roughing up the suspect arm, whatever,
the thing that has me kind of second guessing, I guess, we'll starting at I'll start at running back here. This is a guy that we've bashed left and right throughout the season. But we talked about, talking about Dallas and then talking about a team that Dallas is going to face twice in this stretch with Washington football team and Antonio Gibson. I mean, how many times we've just said, okay, this ain't it. He's a bust. And now all of a sudden, I think in his last 5 games, he's matched the total for the year in terms of the number of touches he's had. And he blows up. And then you look at the schedule again for what he has coming up. And, you can call it, a fortune of luck for Gibson, just with the fact that J.D. McKissick has been out. Jarrett Patterson really isn't much to hang your hat on as a backup. And so obviously you're going to rely on Gibson. But at that same time, you got Dallas this week, then the Eagles, then Dallas, and then the Eagles again. They have a really weird schedule where they flip-flop the same 2 teams over and over. But it's a very friendly rushing schedule for them. And it's one of those guys where you're just okay, he's gone from an afterthought just 4 weeks ago to, okay, you have to play him. Ron Rivera has finally realized, I have Antonio Gibson. I need to use him. He's the reason we won last week. He's the reason that we beat Tampa Bay. We need to continue this. And Taylor Heineke. You can't
take. Yeah, thank you. Gotta give him his love. That dude deserves some credit. But no, that's a great call. No, it's Gibson, man. He has been really impressive, and all season long, people have been just so frustrated, Stephen. Right? It's mother.
I mean, if you're this far into the season and you're still competing with Gibson as your number 1, I mean, all the praise to you.
Yeah. God bless you.
I mean, it's a pick that probably burned you on the turn at the 1-2.
Yeah.
But again,
would you start Gibson over James Robinson?
Yes, I would.
Would you start James Robinson over David Montgomery? And the reason I ask that is the comment below.
Okay. how good do you think Montgomery is
And it
this
speaks of
weekend,
matchups.
J-Rob?
Green
Oh,
Bay
man.
getting some guys back on defense. They're starting to get a little bit healthier. Plus it's the fucking Bears, the one guy that but at the same time, the one guy that's going to do well and is demonstrated, who played with some fucking heart, is David Montgomery.
Right.
And I think Nagy and the boys, whatever's left of them, I think they understand they got to give him the ball. But
I mean, here's the thing. I don't think it's a terrible play. I really don't. I mean, even against the Cardinals, like, he was able to do some pretty decent damage, even if it was in, a little bit hit or miss there at the beginning, because Andy Dalton was, I mean, didn't help, the receivers didn't help him at all. Let's get that straight as well. We all know that Cole Kmet needs to go through like 20 jug machines a day just to learn to catch the ball. I mean, 90 yards and a touchdown, and then he catches 8 balls for 51 yards out of the backfield. If Andy Dalton continues to start for the Bears, Montgomery is solidified as an RB1, because he's just going to keep looking to that outlet down the sideline and keep hitting Montgomery for these dink and dunk plays, which we also know Matt Nagy loves to call.
Oh, yeah.
These dink and
Dalton
dunk
didn't
plays.
throw one pass over 20 yards last week.
And he's not going to. And even here in the warm-ups, like, Andy Dalton has to like run into a 50-yard throw to get it 50 yards, and then with Justin Fields, it's just a whip of the arm, and
That's
it's
our QB
60
one,
yards down the
That's
field.
our
Exactly. So as long as that exists, you have to play Montgomery.
Good
you just
point.
have to.
Yeah,
regardless of who they're playing. I mean, they got
he's
their
healthy.
asses
He
kicked
showed
on
that
Sunday.
last week. I mean, he
Right.
was a workhorse. No, it's a great point, Stephen. I just think, and I know Anthony here brings up a good question. As we talked about James Robinson, I thought it was a perfect opportunity to kind of do a little comparison, right? So you go Gibson over James Robinson, you go Montgomery over James Robinson. But that we're not saying James Robinson's not a great play. We just think his matchup is fantastic for this next 3-week stretch, and culminating this in a monster matchup. If you're in the finals, week 16, against fucking the Jets, who can't stop me or Mr. Johnson running the fucking ball. So, Toshin would have 7 touchdowns fucking against them on Sunday. And he'd talk all about it after the fucking game. But, and so here we are. I think matchups are so fun, and they're important all year round. Like, I'm not saying that they're not, but now it's like the nitty gritty, getting into like the fucking minutia. The weather is extreme, as you saw last night.
Yeah.
My brother-in-law needed, I think it was like just under 3 points from Matt Breida last night to win. And he didn't get credit for the fumble. It went to Allen. And he
did you see Peyton Manning's comments?
I didn't.
I
I was listening to the game. I wasn't watching it at that point. But
so
what did he say?
I mean, if for anybody who hasn't watched Eli and Peyton on ESPN2 for the Monday night broadcast, highly recommend it.
Oh, it's better than the regular broadcast.
He broke down why that fumble should go on Breida and not Josh Allen. And it was just things like that where it's like, this is what I need. And you could argue that Peyton Manning had Josh Allen on his fantasy team and he didn't want that fumble on his record. Maybe that's the case. But, talking about that and just how the ball was held and all of that, it's an aggravating thing that, 9 times out of 10 on that exchange, it could 100% be the running back's fault, but unless that running back has full possession of that ball, it's always going to go to the quarterback, which is one of the dumbest rules in all of the NFL. It's sorry, I had to post that one up there. So I mean, it's one of those things where you're just like, God, I lost my train of thought.
No, we're talking about matchups and the importance of them, and we talked about the combination of just the importance of not only the player themselves and what you expect from them, but how important each matchup is, and the variables that go into these matchups now, including the weather, including, last night I was going against a guy that had Sanders and Diggs. He needed 32 points, I think. and he got nowhere near that,
Right.
And so it's just it all comes in, and you need luck, and that's what it comes down to too. Is like
Yep.
I don't know if you're in any leagues where they try to like take all the luck out of it somehow. They and it's like there's no fun in that. And to me, it's like
all play and like we're just gonna put the top scoring team.
But if you lose, but if you score enough points, you get another win in the win column. But if you score less than half the league, you get a loss. I'm like, what the fuck is that?
You know what those are for? That's to alleviate the players who bitch about it not being fair that they went 5-8 despite being
the highest scoring
fourth
team,
best scoring team, and the top 3 made it, but he didn't. Like that. That's all that is.
But that's the luck. Sorry, you were unlucky this year.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to that. It's part of the game.
Oh yeah, it drives me nuts. It's a league. I'll be honest with you, it's a league with all my buddies that I grew up with, and it's the only reason I stay in it. And it's called the No Cunts League, the NCL. And I hate to say that out loud, but that's actually what it stands for. And first off, it's on CBS, which is arguably the worst fantasy platform.
Yeah.
It's just horrible. And I obviously will never get a sponsorship from CBS, but
that was a long shot anyway. I think we can.
But I'm just saying, it's like, and then they changed the rules, and there used to be double matchups because people were pissed about the points, and I'm like, guys, what you can't take the luck out of it. It's like there's no fun in that, and then it's like they do the old school waiver wire, and I'm like, this is fucking dumb. And I suck in the league it's the only league I've made the playoffs once, I think, I've been in the league almost 20 years, and I've made I take that back. I made the finals once, but like I haven't made the playoffs in 6 years.
I was gonna say if you haven't made if you've made the playoffs once in 20 years, like what the hell?
No, the finals once, and I lost to my roommate. I lost to my best friend at the time. It was one of those things, but whatever. I had Aaron Rodgers as my quarterback too at the time. I'll never forget that shit. He fucking fucked me in the finals. So go fuck figure. Oh my god.
Well, okay. Well, we're gonna talk
Sleeper.
about CBS here.
That is the best.
Up here. See, I'm gonna.
All right, yeah. Actually, go ahead. You give your opinion. Go ahead. You're the fantasy pro.
I'll say this from a casual player perspective. You are correct. 100%. It is sleeper. It's easy to set up. The mobile interface is really easy to use. If you're going to be a mobile 100% league, sleeper, without a doubt. The thing I have an issue with sleeper, best ball leagues only work on mobile, don't work on a desktop. So if you set up as best ball, doesn't work. More customization features if you want a more customized league in terms of the points, in terms of the draft settings, all of that, it's not meant for that full customization or even those bigger leagues. I know people really bash on it because it's archaic in terms of the way that it looks, but MFL, if you want full customization and you really want to dive into the nitty gritty of just all the things that it can do, I recommend that. I just wish that they would upgrade their interface. I understand why they haven't, but I would say that they are, for a dynasty perspective, if you can handle that whole interface, especially a commissioner that can handle that whole interface, because that's a whole animal in itself.
Yeah,
I highly recommend that. But really, those two, you can't go wrong. MFL, myfantasyleague.com.
I'm gonna bring it up right here. That's what I was doing.
So it looks like it's from 2005. When you log in, it looks like it's from 2005. So it's one of those things, and it also costs money. So that's the other thing, is sleeper doesn't cost anything. MFL, I believe, is $60 for the year. But again, you can customize anything about it, like the home pages. You can do team banners, and literally any single type of point or scoring system you want can be done. So that's my 1 minute pitch for MFL.
Yeah, you do like that. No, I've never used them, and I think that's CBS costs money too. It's like we pay. I think it's like $130, and it's a shit fucking site. It's just Their projections are awful. Their ranking system is skewed. Like I like actually some of their writers that do some of the work for them and put some of the content out on their, on their actual website. But just as far as their interface for their fantasy football, I don't like it at all, man. And I don't like how you edit guys and swap guys in out of your lineup and stuff. There's nothing I like about it. And maybe it's just I hate the fantasy league I'm in with that, and I'm just being a hater, but I just, it is.
Hey, just get the vote going to
he asked me, the commissioner asked me, because I bitched like week 3 and 5 guys were like, yeah, this shit sucks. And we were like, and so next thing you know, he's like, what do you use? And I was like, well, I like, a free spot, free ad here, sleepers. I'm a big fan of sleeper.
Right.
And then all my other leagues are ESPN, Yahoo,
See, and there's a lot of people that bash Yahoo and ESPN, and I really don't know why. Because I think it is too. And there's a lot of people that are just like, oh, it sucks. It's terrible. It's like,
there's no customization, but it's straightforward.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. Like if you need the most basic customizations, ESPN is
for the map areas of the world. Exactly.
Right. I mean, it's it works really well. Same with Yahoo. I mean, sometimes the rankings are a little screwy with both. The one thing I will say I enjoy about Yahoo is sometimes the auto drafter. If you have that jerk that doesn't enter the room, it'll pick an injured player, and then that auto drafter is stuck. That's one thing I really appreciate about Yahoo, that it bypasses that. So Sleeper you can access on desktop.
Yeah, I have it on I had it up right now while we were talking.
It is a much more mobile friendly application. 100% much more friendly. If you do best ball leagues, they're only visible on mobile. They are not visible on desktop. And it doesn't make any sense to me. I was in 2 best ball leagues this year, and I'd be sitting on my laptop, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, can't look at this league. I can see my record, but I don't know who I have. So it's just things like that where, you can get around it. Obviously, the majority of the players out there are looking at their stuff on their mobile app, checking scores, looking at that. I mean, we do it every Sunday. Everybody watching this does it every Sunday. They're scrolling through their teams. Oh, I need 10 points from this guy. I mean, it's mobile first, so they know what they're doing in that regard. I will not disagree with that whatsoever.
Okay. Good call.
Yeah, that's the platform talk for this evening.
Yeah. I don't mind their website. Just so you know, I was just on there while we were looking for stuff because there's a guy in our league on the TTNL conference. He played. He did one of those. I'm not going to play guys this week, and put a couple of dudes on buys that were in his lineup, and I didn't see it until Sunday night. And as a commissioner, I'm all about competitiveness, even though this is a free league and we're playing for something at the end and, the whole 9 or whatever. But
right.
I was just trying to see, I was like, oh shit, I'm just going to fucking put a lineup in for him and just, make it and let him know, hey man, I put a starters in for you because this ain't fair to everybody else. Because he beat somebody by like 70 points or whatever. He lost by like 100. Who fucking knows? But, same time, I just come on, we're having some fun here, let's come on. It's TTNL family here, right? What the fuck?
Right. Hey, even play spoiler. If you're not in the hunt, play spoiler. Don't just abandon your team. There's nothing more irritating than people who just abandon their team. A couple other questions here in the chat as we move along here. Anthony also has.
Yes, thank you for bringing this up.
Do you think he's worth keeping or go after Coleman or Hillard? Pitts has been killing me. Do you trust Dallas Goddard more than Pitts going forward?
I don't like any of those guys except for Henderson's still a maybe for this weekend. It's still up in the air, unless you know otherwise. I think. Go ahead.
So I don't know what to think of that Rams situation. I mean, it's a quad. They really didn't put Henderson out there at all. It was just kind of like I don't
think he's got. I don't know.
Trojan horse.
I mean, Michelle did great.
Yeah, he did.
He did great. There's no reason to rush Henderson back. And with a quad like that, do you really want to, if he's 50%, 75%, and you have a guy that's been there all year, and when he got touches, he performed. I don't have his numbers right in front of me, but I do know that he has done some things this year when he's had that opportunity. I think he had one game where he rushed for about 78 yards on 24 carries. If I hit that, then that's great. I'll chalk that up for the last 2 brain cells left here. I don't like Coleman. Hilliard, I just think Foreman's the guy. That
Titan situation is weird.
I think Foreman's the guy. I think, Hilliard had a nice little game. He had over 100 yards and all, but I think Foreman, it just still goes back to your point about the eye test. When you see them run, right, Foreman just looks like the better back. And, I am no NFL scout, but I have 2 eyes that work, and I can see people that run faster, move faster, and I just think Foreman he just seems to be a cut above, and it shows because he's still getting more carries, and he's just, I think he's more trustworthy at this point. And what do you think about his tight end situation?
It's amazing.
They're gonna bye this week, right?
So I mean, obviously Pitt's this week because Goddard's on the bye. This has been tough too because a lot of people anticipated Goddard to go off once Zach Ertz was traded to Arizona.
They paid him like it too.
That hasn't been the case. It really hasn't.
I think that's the Hurts impact. But
I mean, they definitely have relied more on the running game, which they should have done weeks ago because this is first and foremost a running team.
Sanders is hurt, right?
Yeah. So and him coming back and getting the touches that he should have always been getting.
Great last week.
I mean, really the last 2 weeks he's looked pretty solid overall.
You talked me into starting him this past weekend. I appreciate that. I needed that. I still fucking lost, but at least I lost by a little less.
I tried.
You tried very well. I appreciate
it. COVID and all, I tried.
Oh man.
But from Goddard's perspective, he had 2 touchdowns and 100 yards against the Jets. Maybe that's more Minshew just looking to that outlet there. Maybe it's because it's the Jets and the Jets are terrible, which it still blows my mind that they're that bad on defense because they have a defensive minded head coach.
Fire Bob Saleh.
Yeah, it's rough. But looking at the rest of how he's done, I mean, his high in yardage before this last game on Sunday was 72 yards against Detroit on October 31st. So really, he hasn't blown the roof off of things.
No. I'm actually surprised to hear you say that.
And that was also tied. So he had 6 catches against the Jets. That tied that same game against Detroit for the season high in catches. So again, targets wise there too. Like you think about the receivers that are in Philadelphia. You've got Rager, you've got Smith, you have Quez Watkins that appears for a game every once in a while. There's not a lot there to contend with in terms of the target share in that room. Yet here we are with Dallas Goddard, where his season high is 8 targets. And he's averaging more in the 5 or 4 range across the scope of the season. Like there's not a ton there that just has you saying this is a guy that you can sit here and rely on. It's tough for me, even if he is coming off of a game. I don't like, with the 2 touchdowns, you can't let recency bias get a hold of you in that aspect. And I'd have to look up Kyle Pitts' numbers. Again, we all know he's been kind of a dud based on what a lot of people anticipated him to be, especially with the draft capital that you more than likely spent. But really, he's getting more looks than Dallas Goddard on a consistent basis. I mean, he's at 709 yards and 1 touchdown. Like, that's the mind-blowing thing. He has not been getting the red zone targets. I don't understand why.
I don't understand that at all. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it's one of the most infuriating things that I have yet to figure out why this season, especially with how bad the Falcons are and what they drafted Kyle Pitts to do at number 4 overall. But comparing the stats of these two, so 596 yards and 4 touchdowns for Dallas Goddard. Kyle Pitts, 709 yards and 1 touchdown. Pitts has 8 more catches, and Pitts has had his bye already. So think about that Pitts has had the better season than Dallas Goddard. And it's been 7 weeks now, 6 weeks, 6 or 7 weeks since Zach Ertz has left town.
6, I think.
So I wouldn't necessarily say that, that's a better option for you when you look at the numbers.
That's a good call.
If Jalen Hurts comes back,
that doesn't help.
Ceiling at his floor at. No, it doesn't. If anything, you want to see the Eagles say, you know what, Gardner Minshew, you're our quarterback. It's never going to happen. Let's get something straight. But
and it's wild, Stephen. I'm looking at his Goddard's 2020 stats, and his highest receiving, he went over 100 yards once, and it was week 1 against Washington football team. And then his highest after that was 77 yards. Highest catch total was 7, and he did that once. So it's like, I as we talk about him, and he gets paid to replace Ertz. I'm shocked actually when I see that, and it's like, okay, I think and numbers don't, they tell part of the story, right? As we talk about, pardon me, the tape never lies, but but to the point of actually looking at the numbers, Goddard is what Goddard's going to get you right now, and that is about 4 or 5 catches in that 50 to 60 yard range, and he only had 3 touchdowns last year. So it's not like he's hitting the pay dirt all that time, all that much as well. So, when you really break it down to that point, though, Stephen, I was actually surprised because I thought he would have better numbers than Pitts this year, because Pitts has been a disappointment on the fantasy tip.
Yeah.
Wow, it's interesting. That's a good question, though. By Anthony.
Absolutely. I mean, honestly, I'm in the camp of keep with Pitts.
I'm with you
in that regard, even after the bye. I mean, here, hold on. Let's bring up our tiny schedule again.
Yeah. Oh, and I'll go to that.
What's Atlanta got? So they got San Francisco, Detroit, and Buffalo. Philadelphia has Washington, the Giants, and Washington. Okay, I'm second guessing now. San Francisco and Buffalo are too tough. I mean, we saw how bad Atlanta was against good teams. Oh shit, I don't know. Now
Pitts
I'm
didn't even make the
matchup
in my little ranking system I have here. He didn't even make their top 8. Cole Kmet's ranked higher than him for the remaining strength of schedule.
Really?
Over Kyle Pitts, yeah.
Wow.
Just based on matchup, not necessarily just based on on overall defensive matchups against tight ends. That's what I'm talking about here. Well, that's why matchups are important.
Yes.
As we talk about.
As long as Cole Kmet.
The theme of the day. We should, the name of the episode, or however you want to look at it, schedule, playoff time. You got to think here, use your head, not your heart. If you're a Bears fan, that's long gone. So it's more just try to win some fantasy money now. And it's like, hey, proof's in the pudding. There's players out there to be had. There's some guys still out there that you could probably get if you needed a running back. I don't know if we're going to get to it tonight, but there's definitely a lot. There's a lot of movement. Some COVID issues. There's some guys that some injury. Like Elijah Mitchell with the concussion protocol. It was weird too, because it was like the first time that you had a week of fantasy football, and you were like, "Wow, an RB1 didn't break a fucking leg, or an RB1 didn't fucking blow out an Achilles." I mean, Thielen went down. He's going to be out for a little bit, which sucked. Logan Thomas, which it was nice to see that.
Got one game.
Dude, let me say, I was thinking about this after the whole Logan Thomas thing. Jordan Reed and Logan Thomas, 2 tight ends that I mean, Thomas is a lot younger, obviously, but like Jordan Reed was amazing when he was healthy. He was sick, and I don't even know if he's still in the league. But I loved him when he played for the former Washington Redskins. God, sorry for saying, but the Washington football team he played.
Said the name.
I know, but that's what he played for, right? And so,
right.
Damian Harris is the injury, though, that you got to keep an eye on, but they got the bye, so he should be fine. Speaking of, I took just real quick side note, a 2-team parlay, 2 prop bet, Josh Allen and Damian Harris, each rusher 40 yards.
Josh Allen got like 39, didn't
39.
he? 39.
30 fucking died. Yeah. It was I think the odds were plus like 404. It would have paid me like $400 for like a $10. It was I was like, motherfuckers. Yeah. I thought I got it, and then I'm like, actually that's pretty close. And then I looked in the morning and I was like, but I took the Patriots, the under, and the money line on a 3-bet parlay and hit that. So
you're good.
I was in the black, so I was all right. But we had a couple quarterbacks with some finger issues though. Joe Burrow. With that dislocated pinky, and if you want to call him a quarterback, Taysom Hill.
Hey, he's taking snaps. That's all that matters.
They'd like used a freaking. Did you see what they tried to do? They used like a staple, a fucking apple, and a piece of fish tape or a fishing line to hold his finger together in that game. I'm like, what are they fucking doing, dude?
It's MacGyver on the sideline.
Just put the fucking backup in. Like, what are we doing here? Jesus Christ!
Like anything we need to do to not put Trevor Siemian back in the game.
Yeah.
Please do.
But you got to keep, we're talking, and sorry we joke, but Chargers, they got a big game this week. No Keenan Allen, COVID protocol. But that makes me nervous just in general when you have their star, who is he around, contact tracing, the whole 9. Obviously, there hasn't been any major news, I think, from LA regarding that, right? It sounds like Keenan Allen was the only dude that got, caught up in the nonsense, but it was just a weird week. Kenyon Drake broke his ankle. Corey Davis is out for the year. I'm just trying to think off the top of my head.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about let's go to Kenyon Drake because again, to not throw any puns out there, but a guy who's felt like he's been in a black hole and really not talked about all that much this year, Josh Jacobs. Who continues to just kind of trot along. He's got those nagging injuries. He's had them every year he's been in the league. It's one of the weirdest things. He's like a 50-year-old man in a 25-year-old's body. That's honestly how he feels at this point. Now you have Jalen Richard and Peyton Barber behind him, but he's coming off of this game against Washington, where he's got 52 yards and a touchdown on the ground, and then he totals in 9 catches for 38 yards through the air because Kenyon Drake breaks his ankle, and so he picks up that receiving yardage. For whatever reason, I have seen Josh Jacobs on a bizarre number of free agency wires, which is weird because I'm looking at Fantasy Pros and he's in the high 90s. But I mean, there's 2 leagues I'm looking at right here where
say that again.
People dumped him at some point because they were just like, people were just like, oh, it's Josh Jacobs, and like they just get fed up with him because you look at this schedule and he's just kind of been trotting along. He only has 472 rush yards this year.
He's hurt.
That's
though.
it. I know. I mean, his second game was October 4th, so he was missing a bunch of games off of the start. He's kind of been there for the rest of the game, but his high in rushing yardage was against Dallas on Thanksgiving, 87 yards on 22 carries.
But he's got double-digit point totals every week except for one. I think was at week 10 when he played. If he played, there was the one game against Kansas City, the one game he probably should have fucking done well, and he didn't. He only had 8.6 points, 7 carries, 6 for 16 fucking yards, but he had 5 catches for 20 yards, but granted, there wasn't very much there with the ball. I didn't do yak or anything, but it's still, he is such an anomaly, but he does both. I mean, even when they had Drake, though, he still got 5 targets, 7 targets. 5. He's getting the targets. He gets receiving yards. He's double digits on both sides of the ball. But yeah, he just how many touchdowns total? 7 touchdowns in the on the ground, but none in the air. Josh Jacobs, he's in the league I was just bitching about. He was a guy I wasted a pick on. One of the reasons why I hated him and Nick Chubbs. But
hey, Nick Chubb's been good when healthy, when he's not been with COVID.
Fucking COVID.
But For Josh Jacobs, honestly, this could be a league winner. It's weird saying it, but Josh Jacobs could be a league winner, even with a relatively tough schedule coming up here, just because he'll probably have that receiving work built in, unless Jalen Richard resurrects himself from the dead here, which, I mean, it's possible, I guess. He's on the COVID list, so we'll see what happens there. But again, he'll get a decent bump in work probably on those passing downs, but they should rely on Josh Jacobs, even if they have Cleveland and Denver and Indianapolis coming up as their final 3 games down the fantasy football stretch. It's something that, could be an RB1 in all honesty, if he puts up, again, even the paltry line, the Raiders only put up 15 points against Washington, and yet here he is with the 52-yard 1 touchdown line and 9 catches for 38. But hey, PPR league, that's 24 points.
Ain't that the truth?
24 points any day from any running back. So
big upset.
It's bizarre. It's absolutely bizarre. That of all people, it's that guy who really, like you said, has felt like an afterthought to what the running back position has been, despite it being just a mess. It's a guy you really never want to talk about for just his history as a running back in the league.
But then when you look at his numbers, you're like, shit, all right. You can see why he always falls where he falls when he gets drafted, right? He's a guy that lands. I mean, at this point, he was in that David Montgomery category, I think, when it came to draft spots for running backs. He was sandwiched between him, Montgomery, Gibson. I'm missing somebody. Actually, I might even be a little.
Chris Carson was in that group too.
I made the mistake and drafted him in a league, so fuck me for that. But no, but I like Jacobs. I had really high hopes for him this year. I thought he was going to take the turn because last year he was banged up. Shit, at this point, that's just par for the course, So
exactly.
And as we talked about last week, I think you're going to see in just some strategies shifting with respects to how you roster your fantasy teams. Really going for one running back and looking to stream the rest and go from there and play those matchups like we just talked about. And just as we talk about this, Stephen, I think if you are listening and you're driving in your car, or if you're looking at our ugly mugs that are made, faces for radio, I think that, at the end of the day, that there's some good, useful information out there where you can, if you really want to dig down and go do some research on your own, you can definitely do that. And I think you can have some fun with that and go down that rabbit hole and learn some stuff about some of the, the minutia behind some of these decisions that these fantasy gurus and fucking pundits and jack-offs fucking talk about, because there's some real truth to that shit. And, the numbers, and Stephen, you are like you're the Rain Man of fantasy football. You can recite numbers and shit left and right. And
don't give me that much credit. Come on.
Dude, come on. I could name a guy and you could tell me how many fucking yards and whatever happened in that game. You might even tell me the weather pattern and where the fucking wind was coming from. But, to the point is it's crunch time and you need to fucking do the homework if you want to win the fucking money. And we're happy you're here listening to us fucking bullshit and talk about this. But in reality, you're going to need more than 52 minutes or whatever it is right here to fucking really, do some homework right now, because it's 10:30 where I'm at. You're going to have to make some important decisions now as you're fucking facing, it's gauntlet. It's fucking crunch time, and there's guys to be had. But Mr. Johnson, what are you thinking here?
Well, so you mentioned gauntlet. So I think a solid way to wrap up the episode would be to give a quick shot of a guy at every position. We've been talking a lot of waiver talk. We've been talking a lot of schedule, week 14 being not so great. One guy at each position, just quick running down and quick shot here. Why you should go and grab them now versus maybe a week from now, even if you think they're a solid play. Yeah, waiver play, especially for what we have going on here. I see Bob's scared now. We scared Bob. We apologize, Bob. We also hold on. So before we
Was
get
it
to that,
looking at us, the faces that did the scaring, or
yeah,
was it?
I don't blame you.
Shit.
One question from him here though, from Bob earlier. I don't think we got to it. Half point PPR, pick 2 of 3. Pat Fryermuth, Brandon Ayuk, or T.
Higgins for sure. Higgins is turned back into form. I think he found. I like Higgins personally. I just do. I think his target share never went away, but the results are there now. In my opinion, it sounds like you may disagree, but
no, I agree with you there. I agree with you.
What do you think of the other two?
That's where I get hung up because I don't think I can.
Pat hasn't done much the last couple weeks.
See, yeah, I know, and you could argue that Brandon Ayuk's got a decent matchup against Cincinnati, and you can play that opposite team.
Yeah, another shootout. Yeah,
with that, which it definitely could be. Minnesota's been right, and Minnesota's been pretty good against tight ends. It's a Thursday night game. It's another one of those Thursday night games. Yeah, I think I'm not.
12, yeah, me too.
Yeah, I and it's tough because if Debo's back, it throws a whole nother wrench into things. But I think that could end up being a shootout, and it could work in Ayuk's favor.
Yeah, since week 9, Fryermuth, against the Bears had those like 19 points. Then he had 4.6, 9.1. Then he had 12, and then last week he had 6.1. So it's he's had it's that yin and yang, it's that up and down, so it's a tough play there, but I think those latter two are your safe bet there. Yeah, but that's a good question.
Yep, for sure.
You're welcome, brother.
Sure. We got take the floor this week, especially if you're not chasing that many points and just looking to stay competitive within your matchup. So yeah, like I said, let's do a gamut here. We'll just go quickly down the list. We'll start at quarterback. We've talked about a couple names already this week in terms of guys that might make sense. So at quarterback, who do we like as pickups to help out this week?
Well, as we go here, Stephen, I just think, there's some guys you could probably drop right now too, as we talk about picking guys up, drop Ty Johnson, drop every single Seattle running back. You can drop Rashad Bateman.
No Adrian Peterson? Come on.
No, get the fuck out of here. Sorry, I didn't mean to yell at you. Marvin Jones Jr. and Kenny Golladay, you can drop all those motherfuckers because at this point in the season, they're not helping you out. I think you can't go there. I just think that's something to think about if you're worried about picking up a guy and needing to play somebody. So just my little 2 cents there. I always try to figure out, when you're trying to pick up those guys, Steven, it's like, who am I dropping? Who should I drop? It's like, all right, not you, you motherfucker, you're out of here. You got a meeting with coach in 2 minutes. But quarterback wise, you're asking me there.
Yeah,
I'm hemming and hawing here. I'd love to say Garoppolo, but I just think he's rostered in too many leagues. I want to say Taylor Heineke too, but
he's got Dallas this week. I mean, if that turns into a shootout, it could work out in his favor, especially with the way that he's.
How about Big Ben?
Here. Okay, going on the Thursday night tilt with the Vikings.
Oh, fuck no.
I mean, the Vikings haven't been great.
I just hate Thursday night. I hate.
They lost to the Lions.
Yeah, but it's Thursday night, and it just goes against my whole. I can't pick. All right, I'm gonna say, damn it. I just want to. If you can get Jimmy Garoppolo, grab him. Okay. I'm gonna say grab Jimmy G. He's rostered at 63% of the league, so I feel like I'm cheating saying that though. But he had 299, 2 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions week 13 against Seattle. He's been balling out pretty much. I think he is definitely earning himself some money down the road here. It's making the decision for the Niners pretty hard if they're going to go with Trey Lance next year. I mean, they pretty much have to, unless they want to be the Chicago Bears. But they kind of already are with respect to those moves they made with their draft picks. But they're actually winning some fucking football games. So that's my pick at the quarterback spot. What about you?
Despite just a completely ugly Thursday night game last week, he did still manage to finish QB4 in standard scoring. That's Taysom Hill. He gets the Jets this week. So if he's floating around out there, I'd say he's still definitely a guy that you want to tack on there at the desperation play if you do need him, if you're dealing with any quarterback that's out, or you just want to play the matchups if you're, kind of floating along there. But a great opportunity for him to put up another solid game, and hopefully without 4 interceptions. But again,
just
he ran for over 100 yards.
Yeah,
I mean, you're good right there with what he can bring to the table. And again, we know the Jets suck. So again, that's a guy there that can definitely get it done. From a running back perspective, there's a couple names here where I'm on the fence about. We watched Miles Sanders get a little hurt towards the end of the game, and not really sure what's going on with that. He really the running game in general. I think this is an opportunity for people to jump on 2 specific players. In terms of ranking them out here, I'm going to lead Jordan Howard, but I also like Kenneth Gainwell as having a role down the stretch, as being a guy that could potentially do it, especially Kenneth Gainwell, 12 rushes, 54 yards, 5 catches for 33. Again, it was against the Jets, but again, showing off that talent, the reason why they drafted him out of Memphis, has that opportunity to really get things rolling in a divisional schedule down the stretch. So I like those 2 guys in case Miles Sanders' ankle were to flare up once they return from the bye in week 15.
Yeah, it's a good call. I mean, he's got, I think, what's he have? 8 catches, 65 yards on 9 targets in the last 2 games. Like you said, Jordan Howard's another great option, rostered in 28% of the leagues out there. So, those are some good calls, man. I hemmed and hawed about the same thing here. You got with CMC going down, you obviously got Chuba. Amir Abdul is a guy who's something to think about. They're going to have to split time, I think, with Chuba. I see Abdullah being more in the passing game. He had 3 catches. He's had 3 catches in the last 3 out of his last 5 games. So he's getting some play, and that was before with CMC in the lineup. Now he's out. I just think, they're coming off the bye here. I think Abdullah's worth adding, rostered in only 5% of the leagues, playing against Atlanta. Worth a shot. Now we're trying to find those matchups, those plays where we're looking to make some money and win some matchups here. Win our matchups and win some money. And that's, I think he's a guy that might be able to help you out in like a deeper league. I'm going to shoot it over to you on the wide receiver front. Who do you got for me?
Yeah. A guy that continues to just sit along the wire and no one's picking him up. It might just be because he's an Atlanta Falcon and we know what Atlanta has looked like in previous games here. However, you got to go get Russell Gage. It is the time to pick up Russell Gage. He is a wide receiver too. With the way that this offense has been going and the way that he has been performing, he has put together back-to-back wide receiver 15 overall weeks in the last 2 weeks. And now he gets Carolina and San Francisco, 2 teams who haven't been the greatest against wide receivers overall. And again, if he continues to command these pretty decent setups here, I mean, hell, he had 12 targets against Tampa Bay and he caught 11 of them for 130 yards. So Matt Ryan is gaining that rapport with him. He's only owned in 30% of leagues out there right now. So it definitely opportunity to plug in a guy who can put up wide receiver 2, fringe wide receiver 1 numbers right out of the gate with a relatively decent schedule coming up here down the stretch. And then he has Detroit in week 16. So really 3 straight games where, Atlanta's probably going to fall behind. Yeah. So again, if you need wide receiver help, look to find Gage. He should be there just based off of that 30% roster number there.
That's a great call. I actually would love to scoop him up myself. No, but with Thielen going out, right? I think KJ Osborne's got to play here. He's in line for a big week, rostered in 8% of the leagues. The other thing I was going to say, and it eluded me as I was talking, is speaking of Atlanta Falcons, Julio Jones is out there. He's rostered in about 61% of the leagues, which is a surprising number. Big disappointment.
Back this week.
But he's back this week. He's projected for over 12 points in most leagues with full PPR. So he's something to think about. It's desperation time. No A.J. Brown. Tannehill and the boys are trying to win some games. They're trying to do a little playoff push here. And if they get the running game working, you never know. Julio stretches that field if he has any sort of game left in him, but any miles, all those miles on those legs. But circling back to KJ Osborne in Minnesota, Thielen's out. Big opportunity here. You're hoping that he can see that bump in targets, making him, a priority for us on the waiver wire. 5 games this year, 6 targets at minimum. So with no Thielen, that means you're looking at least 14 points. At least 14 points out of those 6 games. He had 14 points is what I'm trying to spit out here. So the chance for those big numbers is there. No Thielen. KJ Osborne is my pick to click on that wide receivers to front here.
Fun fact, he's had 3 top 20 weeks this year.
Yes,
KJ Osborne.
And rostered in only 8%, right? I mean, that's fucking crazy.
It's crazy just to think that he's had that many. But again, the craziness of 2021. We'll wrap it up here with the tight ends. I hate saying it because he has killed me so many times. He might kill me again this week.
Are you gonna do it?
Evan Ingram.
Ingram. Jesus.
It's the Chargers game. CJ Uzoma didn't necessarily take advantage of it. However, with the way that the Giants offense looks, Jake Fromm might be getting a start on Sunday.
Let's put that into perspective. They said that he is starting. I heard today.
So we've got that. I think he just picked up like a week ago.
Maybe he'll have a good game and help him sell him. Who knows?
But again, a tight end could definitely mean a safety outlet for a younger quarterback, especially one that's newer to a system. And the fact that the Giants receivers cannot stay healthy at all, cannot stay healthy. And shockingly enough, he has put in 3 of his last 5 games, top 10 finishes in 3 of his last 5. So again, that opportunity there to throw together a fringe tight end 1 week going up against the LA Chargers in what should be a bloodbath from the Chargers end of things and require a lot of passing and a lot of dink and dunk happening from one Jake Fromm. So Evan Ingram, fire him up.
It sounds like Andy Dalton's a quarterback over there. All right, I'm keeping it simple here. Actually, I'm not going to keep it simple. I hem and haw here, but I'm gonna go with Cole Kmet here just because I want to homer out here. We're gonna see who's the starting quarterback going into this weekend against Green Bay. Obviously, we know that Justin Fields and Cole had a nice little connection building, a little bond brewing there as we were working the season here. These ribs on Fields that had busted obviously had a negative impact on that bond. He's had at least 7 targets in 3 out of his past 4 games, and at least 6 targets in 5 of his past 6 outings, giving us 14 fantasy points and add 2 of those games. So let's see, Cole, can you do something for the fucking Bears? Because God damn it, there's nothing to fucking cheer for. So fuck. It's so frustrating, dude. I'm sorry. It just,
I lost it there.
Hey, so did I. Might as well fucking better off rooting for the fucking Whalers. I mean, shit, they got a better chance of winning the game this weekend than the fucking Bears do.
Oh man. Well, I tell you what. Again, if Dalton is the one starting, if Dalton's the one starting, you mentioned it though. So like even just in the last 2 games with Dalton, that's 18 targets that Cole Kmet has had, despite how terrible Cole Kmet has been at catching the damn ball. And the fact that he has resulted in, I believe, 2 interceptions because he can't catch the damn ball in the last 2 weeks. He's getting the targets.
He needs Justin.
Even though Jimmy Graham might be on the team, even though they might be rostering and putting 5 tight ends on the starting roster, having them active on a given Sunday, he's still getting the ball, and he's going to continue to get the ball because Ryan Pace drafted him in the 2nd round, and they need to see if he can get going. This is Adam Shaheen all over again. There, I said it, but hey, he gets targets. And you can't go wrong with that, especially.
And he gets you double-digit points every once in a while. And that's what we're talking about here, because we're trying to win the fucking chip here, bringing home the trophy, avoiding getting the toilet bowl or being punished and having to get a tattoo of your ex-girlfriend's brother on your ass cheek or whatever the fuck it is. But, you know, at the end of the day, we have something to play for. That's why we're here. That's why you're listening. That's why you fucking download our shit or whatever it is. But at the end of the day, we're here to get you over the hump, to get those W's so you can come back and tell us about all those little victories and all those little fucking stories that make this all worth it. You know, it's always nice to win that money, but it's also nice to rub that shit in your buddies' faces when you fucking, you thunder pump them after you fucking blow their doors off, and it's the finals there. So I wish everyone the best of luck this weekend. It's a lot of fun. I hope everybody gets the guys they need. You budgeted correctly and you have some money left to make some moves. But yeah, it's crunch time, playoff time. It's exciting. It's pretty much the last week of your regular season in most fantasy formats. So here we go, brother.
There we do. With that, we do. We got playoffs starting next week. We'll be here to talk about it all, whatever week 14 brings. It is the final bye week. Thank you, Jesus. There are no more issues outside of injuries that you'll have to deal with after this week. If you have to deal with anything at all, if you're done after this week, maybe you're just like, thank God, it's over. I can wait until next year. There's a lot of you out there. I know there are, but hey, that's the beauty of this game. It happens to the best of us year in and year out. But we'll be back.
12 leagues.
Exactly. Hey, something's got to stick, right?
You gotta make the playoffs. You can't go 0 for fucking 12, right?
You could, but I mean, at that point, if you go 0 for 12, just throw in the damn towel.
Quit.
But that's going to do it here for One Up Fantasy tonight. Be sure to watch the Tape Never Lies Networks and ShyCitySports.com's Keeping It 100. Zach Pearson joining the show.
Yes,
talk some Bears and Packers tomorrow night from the Bear Report. So that'll be a fun one. And so we got that rolling. And then we'll be back same time, same place next Tuesday night, 9:30 Eastern, 8:30 Central for an all-new One Up Fantasy. So good luck this weekend. Do as well as you can. Hopefully you're talking playoffs next Tuesday night. Playoffs? Oh, we got that clip somewhere. I got to find it. We might even have it in here. Do we have it in here?
You might change everything in our background. I don't think we have it.
Damn it. I don't. Yeah. I might have deleted it. Probably deleted it. Oh, well.
Anyway.
We tried. Nevertheless, for Chris Jackle, I'm Stephen Johnson. Have a wonderful rest of your week. Enjoy week 14. Enjoy Bears, Packers Sunday night. Let's see an upset on national television. God, would it be great.
Why not us?
Exactly. Why not us?
Why not?
But, of course, us, when you want to talk fantasy.
Yeah,
we'll be back next Tuesday. Yeah, fire Nagy, right?
That's right. Fire Nagy. One Up Fantasy is where you go for your fucking fantasy info. Let's go, Mr. Johnson. Have a great week, brother.
Take care, guys.